today we're going to talk about public court records. And I'm looking down, I made a list of several of these sites. There's Justia, FindLaw, Leagle, CaseText, Court Listener, Law 360, Pacer Monitor. There's 7 sites right there where if you got a public court record, you might appear on them. And there may even be more sites than that.
There are more, but those are the big 7.
Those are the big 7. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about, is the big 7 today. So how does someone get on one of these sites to start with? Like, how does this all get started?
Anytime they go to court, small claims court, appeals court, federal court, anytime there's a court record, it comes public record. And if it's not sealed or expunged, it gets picked up by these sites, these aggregates. And unfortunately, most court records are not sealed first.
What is that?
So it's fair game.
What does that mean when you say sealed, expunged? Is that the same thing?
So expunged is more on the criminal side of things. They do overlap, but basically if the judge decides that you have done your time or paid your retribution, they will give you an expungement, and then they'll seal the court record as well. I think it's a different process. Don't quote me on that, but they do tie together, and you have to jump through hoops and do some paperwork through your attorney to do it. It's not automatic.
And so if a record is sitting on one of these sites and it hasn't been expunged or sealed, can it be removed?
Depends on the site. So half the sites are easy to remove from, the other half make you get it sealed. And the problem is, too, if the site is removable and we remove it, and you don't have a strong online presence to begin with, you don't have much competition, then it's going to pop up on another site, and it becomes an endless game of whack-a-mole until it's on a site that you can't remove from. So my recommendation is, before you start going down this removal process, make sure to build up your online presence first, so you have a tough competition for it. So when you remove a negative site, a court record site, instead of another court record site taking its place, a positive article takes its place.
Got you. So what you're saying is these sites, like, they just scrape automatically from one another, from public court records.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, you just turn whack-a-mole. So it's like just chasing your tail, trying to keep up with all these. And so exactly. If you have been building up your online reputation with press releases, interviews, websites, social media accounts, that gives you that much better of a chance that when one of these new sites does pop up, it's not going to rank on page 1. Most people aren't going to see it.
Exactly. So the first step is publish a bunch of positive content. Let's say you have 4 court records on page 1. After you publish the positive content, probably have 1 left. Then you're that, and you're golden.
So how would somebody know? Like, if someone came to you and they're like, "Hey, I'm on, FindLaw as an example, and that's the only one I'm on." Like, how do you handle that? Is it just a matter of time before they appear on the other ones? Like, how do you approach it?
Not necessarily, because if it's only 1 court record, Google doesn't like to show duplicate content too often. However, that's rarely the case. Most people, even if it's only 1 court situation, they might have gone to appeals, they might have been countersued. Those are all new court records technically. So as long as if it's the same content, you're probably going to have 1 article to deal with. But if there's any follow-ups, you've been sued a few times, or you've been the plaintiff a few times, there's going to be a few sites most likely. And even if you only see 1, doesn't mean that there's only 1 out there. It just means Google hasn't indexed the others yet.
Gotcha. So just to recap, to get a record off of these sites, sometimes you can do it even if it hasn't been sealed.
It depends on the site. Some sites, easy opt-outs. Some sites, you got to fire out an attorney letter. Other sites, you got to plead a case about why it shouldn't be public record. And other ones are just very strict. It has to be sealed, but they don't even consider it.
Do you know off the top of your head, like, which ones you can remove from if the record is not sealed?
So if it's not sealed, Justia is very nice. CaseText is very nice. Law 360, lovely people. And then you have the other side of this things, FindLaw, not, they won't consider it at all. Unicourt and Pacer Monitor are somewhere in the middle. You have to have an attorney plead the case about why it shouldn't be a public record. So yeah, it just really depends on the site.
So can individuals do this themselves or?
Yeah, the Pacer Monitor, you can always plead your case yourself. Justia, easy opt-out. FindLaw, you're going to have to go through an attorney and get it sealed.
Right.
Which we do have experience in, but, unfortunately, attorneys aren't cheap. They usually charge $300-$400 an hour. It takes a few hours of the paperwork. So there you go. So usually it's a much cheaper option just to create positive content to bury it, especially considering it'd be such a pain if you were to remove FindLaw and then it pops up on Leagle, which also requires more paperwork. So always create a strong online presence first and then go from there.
Gotcha. So it sounds like kind of the overview then on any of these legal sites is that because they can constantly be popping up, there's probably other sites that we haven't talked about that exist. If you're on one, there's a chance you could wind up on all of them, and you could wind up spending thousands and thousands of dollars trying to remove and continue to play whack-a-mole. Or you can spend like hundreds of dollars per month and invest in your online presence to push these down and to help guard yourself against future placements.
Yeah, exactly. It's only a few $100 or a few months. You don't need to pay forever. And most likely, if you're on one site, you're on all of them because they all pull from the same all the same databases. Like I said before, it's just Google hasn't indexed the others.
Great. All right, cool, Matt. Well, that's really helpful. Thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.